Hi, my name's Steve Walters, and I am here to talk to you about groups. Even though you're an individual, unless there's a whole bunch of you sitting around, groups matter a lot because think about this. When was the last time you had a good experience in a group? It might never have happened. It might have happened a couple times. I do know some people that say they've never had a bad group experience. My first thought is, have you ever been in a group? And the answer is, yeah, it just depends on the group. So today, in this discussion, in this video, depending when you're watching this, you are going to hear quite a few tips and tricks about how to survive group projects and how to improve it. But if you are like the overwhelming majority of people I've asked, it's usually the bad experience. And I want to turn that into a better experience. And one way to do that is instead of saying it was good, it was bad, it was ugly, it was hitty with an S on the front of it, if you know what I mean, I want you to start ranking your experiences on a scale of 1 to 5. A 0 doesn't count. It's gotta be a 1 or a 5. 0 means you never showed up and did any work. That's on you. So a 1 would be a pretty bad experience. A 5 is awesome. Now, if you wanna go on a 1 to 10, that's okay. But I want you to start working kind of like a pain scale. Instead of saying, "How you doing today?" Saying, "On a scale of 1 to 5, where are you at?" A 3, okay, that's kinda neutral. A 4, is okay. A 5 is pretty good. 2, a 1, not good at all. So again, start using the ranking system. Now, towards the end of this discussion, in a little bit, I'm going to provide you with a special circumstance that a lot of people think is a good thing, but it can be a bad thing. And I'm going to tell you about that. I'm going to say that for later. And I'm also going to share with you 3 activities that you can use in school, at work, or in life for parties and things like that. So there's some really good things on that. I do these with my students, and they usually have a pretty good time on that. But first, I need to clarify a few things. The groups that I'm talking about are not twos. They're 3 people to 7 people in a group. Anything smaller than that, it's a partnership. It's not really a group, it's a pair. So we're talking 3 or more people, but no more than 7, even 8 tops. Once we get into 9, you kind of got a crowd and things get kind of crazy. Now, in some work circumstances, that might be okay, but in an academic setting, generally teachers, we like to keep people in the 6 to 7 range, even 4 and 5. It just makes life a little bit easier, and it creates more groups with more diversity within the groups instead of just one giant group where a lot of people just get shut down out of being introverts. The part of that also is it a face-to-face group or an online group? There are some differences, but the principles are still basically the same. The only difference with an online class versus face-to-face is you can't reach out and grab somebody and say, "Do your job." You can't do that. Online, you can do that, but they don't have to respond to you, okay? The secret hidden warrior at the keyboard. And we definitely don't want to do that. And in the real world, you don't want to threaten people either. That can lead to really bad things. So, big disclaimer, don't do that, okay? You can stare at somebody, give them bad looks, but hands off, all right? No touching. Very, very bad. The second thing is these are going to be guidelines. These are not rules. These are not written in titanium, as I like to say. If they're written in stone, stone could be etched out. It could be demolished. Titanium's a little bit harder. And I'm sure there's things harder than that. I'm sure sapphire mineral I saw the other day could be pretty hard too. So again, these are guidelines. And don't take these absolute serious, but you got to try them because you don't know what's going to work. And because there's a bazillion, literally a bazillion different variations of groups that you might be in, not one thing is always going to work. You might have to use any of the 1 and or through 11 things that can work and even be creative on top of those. The bottom line is this: if you can start to grasp the foundational ideas that I'm talking to you about today during this video or tonight, depending when you're watching it, you should, with time and practice and experience, get better and better and better at these. And you may be awesome at this right now, and I'm just preaching to the choir, as they say, but go ahead and listen to this anyhow, because you might be reminded of something. Oh, you know what? I haven't tried that yet. Some people say, oh, I do great in groups. And in reality, the next group is like, because there's something you forgot or something you just weren't sure about. Big question. Why is group work so painful? Why is it so just, you just want to scream? It's because people are involved. And when people are involved, we deal with this thing called, what's it called? Personalities. That's right. Because everybody's a little bit different. People that think the same are great, but even that, they could be going in the same direction, but their thoughts, their attitudes, their beliefs, their values might be slightly different than yours. And that can lead to a slight friction, or it could lead to a total diversity of ideas that goes out when we need to stay on topic with some things. A big thing that I promote with group work is all about you, and it's the leadership that you bring to a group. Now, listen carefully, it's a guideline. You are not necessarily the leader of the group. You are the leader of yourself. You lead yourself through your beliefs, your values, your attitudes, your hard work, everything that you do. If you can do that, if you can take on that role of a leader without necessarily being in charge of the group, you can really do awesome in these groups. And that can help out a lot. No matter what the rest of the group does, you've taken care of yourself. And that's rule number one. It's a survival rule. What's the first thing you do? You put on your oxygen mask, then help the people around you. Okay. Hopefully we never have to do that, but generally that's true. In scuba diving, I generally, if I had to do that when we practice rescue scuba diving, we take a breath. And then if we have to, we grab our alternate and get it in the other person's mouth. Or if that fails, take a breath. And then through a lot of training, we would do that. Don't try that at home. Don't try that on your own unless you're advanced training. Be careful of that. So be a leader of yourself, not of everybody else, of yourself. And those attributes that you're going to show too can rub off on other people. There's people that can say, wow, that person's doing really good. And they start to follow you, not in a weird kind of stalking way, but they emulate you and they start practicing what you're showing or what you're doing. And that's really good. And depending on the age group and the experience level of your group, that makes a huge, huge difference. Another big part of a group that we see a lot of problems with is the communication levels. There's bad communication. Now, bad communication, let's change that. Let's change that to poor communication. Any communication is good communication. So technically, bad communication would be bad connection, technical issues. You're trying to do something on your cell phone and the battery dies. That's no communication. All right. So poor communication would be the use of words, yelling at somebody, sending all caps in a text, sending a bad meme. Although I don't know if a group's ever done that. I should ask that, but I'm sure you could send a meme over and get the message across. There's some pretty good ones out there. But again, the communication really does matter, and it's how you do that. And I'll talk about that in just a little bit too. Again, people have different beliefs, values, and attitudes. They also have different work ethics. They think differently, and they have different expectations. Now, expectations. Think about your birthday. Okay. Somebody gives you a box and I don't have a box nearby. Oh, I don't have a box nearby. So somebody gives me an invisible box and they give me the box and I go, oh, what's in the box? And you shake it. There's nothing in it. What's an invisible box? There's nothing here. So there's nothing in the box. So I get already upset. Oh my gosh, maybe there's money. Well, I didn't hear anything moving there. Maybe there's just air. Ooh, maybe there's good advice. We don't know. When you're a little kid, you shake the box, right? When I was a little kid, we had models and puzzles. And if you ever shook the box, it's a sweater. If it made noise, it was a model or a puzzle. You knew it was something. Or it would say, do not shake on it. You're like, oh, wow, I bet that's glass or something breakable. And then it'd be a sweater. So parents figure that stuff out. That's a good thing to play on your kids too, parents, by the way, is put a do not shake me on the box. So again, with different work ethics, you can't control people. Control yourself. Be the leader. Have not lower expectations, but don't expect people to be at the same level as you are. If you're an overachiever and you are super athletic and super guided and super focused, and you expect other people to be that way, you're the one that's going to hurt more. Okay. You got to remember that. It may not hurt you right then and there, but somewhere down the road, whether it's that semester, that year, that decade, somewhere in your life, you're going to have a huge letdown. And that's a very dangerous thing to be. So I would say be careful of your expectations of what groups can do. Be positive, be supportive, but don't be over expectative of just everything's going to be perfect. Perfection is really not possible. I think I talked about that in another video, and we definitely will be talking about that in the future. Now, there's different personalities. Let's talk about this real quick. I'm going to grab a drink here real quick. You have the aggressive leader, the autocrat, the do it my way or else kind of leader. That's not really a leader. That's a pointer. And I'm not pointing at you. I'm pointing at the people in the group, right? Do it my way or else. Not good. There's the followers. Now, there's nothing wrong with being a follower if you're a good follower. Now, here's a good guideline about following. To be a good follower, you need to be a good leader. Interesting. If I don't want to be a leader, I'm an excellent follower because I know what the leader is trying to do. I can listen through the garbage that might be coming out of their mouth, but no, their intent is right. And I'm going to help them by doing the best I can to bring that up to speed and make that happen. But maybe I don't want to do that. Maybe I want to argue and I want to fight and I want to go head to head. Two type A personalities in a group. It's very bad. If you get three people like that, oh, it's a nightmare. Or sometimes it's really good, but generally arguers are not good for the group. Then you have the I'll do whatever you want me to doers. They're great. They're not even the followers. They're just the go-getters. Now, they might be great go-getters. They might be the people that you want on your team to go get the research and bring it back. And maybe they're phenomenal at it. So you never know on that. It's not a bad role. It's just the way it is. And you need those people. They are the ones that can really, at the bottom, at the base of a project, really, really help out. Then you have the, I couldn't care less about this, do whatever you want. These are the people who just don't care about much of anything. They have no attitude. They have no beliefs. They have no values other than, I don't care. I just want a grade and I want to get out of here. Or I just want to get through this at work and get my paycheck. Or I just want to, get through this and not get divorced if it's a relationship. And that's usually not the way it's going to end up. So you got to be careful of that. Those people are kind of dangerous for a group, and you have to kind of coach them a little bit better. I don't want to say harder, just differently. You got to treat them differently. The I will do it all person. Okay, now this is me, and I know a lot of people like this. When I get in a group and I feel that the members of my group are weaker, that they're non-performers, that I'll do whatever you want, but on my terms, and I just like, oh gosh, it happens, right? Well, things get done. You get all the work done. You get all the stress. You get all the pressure, but everybody gets the credit usually in a group project, depending on the project. What I used to do to my students is I had an accountability sheet at the end of a group project that we used to do. And if my students are listening now, don't worry about that. I don't do that. Or maybe I will. You'll have to wait and find out. So it may come back. You never know. But it's basically, did you do your job? Did everybody else in the group do the job that they were supposed to do? And then you would rank it. I had what's called a Likert scale. It's in scale of 1 to 5. That's why I like those scales better, 1 to 5. How did they do? A 1, not so good. A 5, pretty good. There was no zeros. Well, the zero was they never showed up, but then usually you just wrote at the top. Participant did not show up. They should fail the course, because that's basically how it should be. Same thing with work. If somebody doesn't show up to do the work at work in a project, they shouldn't get the raise. They shouldn't get the promotions, and they should get towards that door of getting out of there, because they're hurting everybody. Life happens, but communication. That's the other part of that. The I'll do it all person, again, be careful if you're one of those people. I know it's so tempting to just let me do it. And I've been in so many projects that worked out really good when I took charge, but it's not necessarily a good learning curve for anybody else. And you're not really learning more than you should. Now, if you're going to be the leader and captain of your industry or general or, tops of the world, you can do that. But if you get an international company or national company or a very large company of 100, 200, 500, 1,000, 10,000 people, you can't do the jobs all yourself. It is physically impossible. Absolutely. Elon Musk can't do everything himself, right? He's got, I don't know how many employees. Somebody can Google that, but he's got thousands and thousands of employees. I guarantee you, he doesn't do all the work. Now, the latest fiasco, we're not going to talk about that, but I wonder how much of it he actually did versus teams of people that he had do it. So again, he might have pushed the actual send button to take responsibility and accountability, but I'm pretty sure I bet 51% chance he didn't do most of the work himself. So be careful about that. Then there's the person who keeps offering idea after idea after idea after idea and after idea. And maybe we could do it this way. No, maybe this way. Maybe that way. Maybe that way. No, don't do that. If you're that person, good ideas are great. But once the group decides, go with that idea, unless it's failing and the idea doesn't work. If you can't progress, if everybody hits a brick wall and says, we don't know what we're doing. Okay, here's some new ideas. That's when you come in. But if you keep interjecting new ideas, be careful on that. Unless it's a process of how to get things done, or, hey, I have a better idea on how we can save some time and do these meetings online instead of driving somewhere wasting gas money, wasting our time if somebody doesn't show up or if somebody's late, somebody gets in an accident. So again, think process, not so much as ideas. That really can help out a lot too. If somebody does offer ideas or somebody's being any one of those types of people, listen. Now, don't hear them. Listen. What's going on? Now, part of listening, I'm not going to get into that. That's a whole nother set of videos. I've got plenty of those on the channel. You can go find those, whether it's the Wheel of Success or on the Your Success is the Gold channel, the main channel, if you're listening on that. You gotta listen. You got to hear what's going on. What's the real reason they're doing that? Is it because the leader of the group is being weak and they're just stepping up, or the leader's being too strong? So again, if you're the leader, be your own leader. Now, here's the other thing with groups. You might not have a choice. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. One's over there, two's over there, three's over there. And the rest of you, okay, just go wherever you want. Not a good idea. It happens. It does happen. Choosing your own group. I don't like those. Choosing your own group is very bad. Okay, form groups of 6, form groups of 5. Well, how many people are in the class? Then don't put that on people. Ask the teacher, hey, can you just assign us? Or no, if you're in a course, read the syllabus, see if there's group work, and then start figuring out your group ahead of time. When I was working on my master's, I was more than double the age of everybody in there. I didn't know anybody in the program. My first day in the class, everybody else knew everybody. What I did, I sat back and watched who broke into groups first. Then I looked for the other 3 or 4 people that looked just like me, kind of just looking around, not really going. And I said, hey, you two, let's form a group. And we had a group of 3. We were amazing because we were all thinking the same thing. We all held back. We're all a little bit more mature in age, not experience, in age than the other people. So it worked out pretty good. One of the other things too is you got to look at the deadline. Is it a 1-week project? Is it a 12-week project? Is it a 1-year project? You got to know those things and determine that too. The other thing is you got to get everybody's schedule. Everybody's schedule can change every week, every other couple weeks. Yeah, Noah Eats. Hey, Noah, how you doing? Mastermind groups are awesome. They definitely do good. And speaking of mastermind groups, are there formal roles or informal roles in any group? So now a formal role would be, okay, you need to have a president, a vice president, a secretary, a treasurer, a sergeant at arms, a donut getter, a coffee getter, and an environmentalist to set the temperature of the room correctly. That's if you have 8 people. So that's a lot. That's formal. Okay. And there may be some things. If you get onto a school board, if you get into a mastermind group that has specific needs in an academic environment, you're going to have specific needs. At work, you're going to have specific needs. In an informal role, okay, do we have a leader? We're doing group projects this week and next week for my class. And is there a leader for the group? No, there's not. Well, what do we know what to do? We need directions. The directions are there. So it's an informal role. And I do that on purpose because if I micromanage my students, they're not going to learn. So if you're one of my students, now you have some inside baseball tips of why I do what I do. Okay. If I micromanage you, you're never going to learn. You're just going to do it. It's rote memory. It's 1 + 1 is 2, and 2 + 2 is 4, and 3 + 3 is 6, and so on and so on and so on. I don't want to do that. That's not the right way to learn. It's a good way to learn math, but it's not a good way to learn communications and time management skills and goal setting and all the other fun things we have in life. So another big thing about groups, what is the purpose of your group? Okay. What are the expectations? What are the goals? If the expectations are you are to figure out how to save the building environmental cost of $5,000 per year, great. So you form the group. All right. Who's going to check out the maintenance staff? Who's going to check out this? Who's going to check out all the thermostats? Who's going to do measuring? Who's going to do this and that and the other thing? And look at all those environmental things. I took a class like that. It takes a while. And we had it was a 5-story building, but there were only 4 stories that you knew about, unless you knew the secret door to the 5th. And that was a secret door. And we knew about that. So a few of us have been there a little bit longer. But again, what are the expectations? What are the goals? Now, remember, goals are specific, manageable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. They're the SMART goals, right? So what are the goals? Specific goal is to solve a problem. Is it manageable? Yes. Can you do this? Absolutely. We can do this. We all have the skills to do this. It is attainable. Yes. We know how to do this. We can do this, and we will do this. The relevance is because, well, we want to get the good grade, or we want to save money and get promotions and raises and all that stuff. Is it time-bound? Yes. We have till the end of the month, or the end of the year, or the end of the quarter, or the end of the semester, or by next Saturday at 3:01 p.m. maybe that's just when the big meeting is. So that's when you have to have it done. The next thing about groups is, what are the norms of the group? Now, norms are behaviors. Do we meet at the coffee shop? Do we meet in a classroom? Do we meet at somebody's house? Do we meet outside? Do we meet in somebody's car? Do we meet in a classroom? Do we meet online? Do we meet through Zoom, through StreamYard, through FaceTime? What are the norms? How do we do this? Do we always meet all together at once, or do we meet in groups of 2 and 3 if it's a group of 5 or 7? And I would recommend against that unless the group predetermines to do that based on division of labor, or basically if somebody's working on, say it's a presentation, somebody's doing research. Well, obviously they have to do the work first. They give it to the people writing up the outlines and the actual typing up of the papers. Then you have the people designing the presentation, or it might be one person doing the presentation. Then you get people that are mixing and matching within each of those groups. So again, you have to know what the norms are for the group too. How about when there's differences of opinions in the group? Now, no one knows about this. When there's a difference of opinion, i.e., our values are higher than other people in a group, and certain people aren't moderating properly. I'm not going to get into details on this. He's going, yep, I know about this. Yeah, this happens a lot. And as you start getting into adulting 500 level classes past college, this becomes a real big problem. When you become an adult and have children and they become teenagers, a difference of opinion is expected and should be expected. And it can lead to healthy conversation, and it could lead to disastrous relationship breakups. So how does a group handle differences? Is there one person that does that, or does everybody do that? And I'll get into that just in a sec too. I want to get through barriers to communications. All right, barriers to communications in a group. These are really important. Not showing up for a meeting. There is no communication. It just can't happen. It's not there. Now, if you send a communique, an email, a text, an IM, something, or you tell your friend, but don't put your friends on the spot. And one thing I need to back up on real quick is, if you tell a friend, hey, can you tell the group that I'm going to tell you, don't do that. I never tell my students, don't do that, but that's when I will say, don't do that. That's on the absolute don't do it list. Don't put your issues on somebody else. All right. Very, very bad to do that, because what if they forget? Then who's in trouble? Both of you. You get in trouble because you weren't there, and they get in trouble from you because they didn't do what they were supposed to do. And now you got this, right? You got the headbutting. Don't do it. Don't depend on other people. Do it yourself. Be accountable for everything that you do. Not answering emails. If you're a student right now, go open up your email. Don't close this. Open up another tab. Open up your email. Do you have that little red box, at least on Canvas that we use? It's a little red box. And does that have 3 or numbers in there, like 500 plus? That means you have 500 emails you haven't looked at. Do you know that every single one of those emails is not important? Or maybe there's 5 of them that actually are, like emails from me saying, hey, make sure you do this assignment by this date. I changed the due date. Now, never early, but I changed them later. Okay. So you got to look for that. When I used to work with the athletes at my university, they would open up their files for me, not the private stuff, but stuff that I can see. And I would look at their emails. I'm like, wow, thousands of emails unopened. Well, fan mail. All right. For them, it's a little tough. They almost need an administrative assistant to help out. Not only do they have to do athletes and studies and training, they got to open thousands of emails. Kind of hard to do. If you ever wrote a politician or a famous person, you might actually get an answer, but it's probably not directly from them. It's rare that somebody very high up in the food chain, so to say, at the top of the pyramid, if you will, writes directly back. Some people might, and you should feel very lucky that that happened. If you make that connection, see what you could do to nurture that. That is somebody way down the line that can really help you out in life. Be very, very amazed if that does happen. If you're in an online class, be engaged. If there's supposed to be online discussion, discuss. Doesn't mean go, yep, nope, yep, nope, yep, nope, I agree, disagree. It's not texting, it's discussion. When a teacher says, I need substantive response, that means 1, 2, 3 sentences. You don't need to write a book. I opened up somebody's project today and I was, wow, they are really into this. And they must have had about an hour because they got into it big time. And it was natural and it was awesome. I can't tell you who you are if you're watching. Awesome job. You might ask me tomorrow in class, but I'm still not going to tell you. You'll know. I left a comment. So it was pretty good. Not answering texts. Texting for communication is only good in my mind for project as is the meeting at 5? Is the meeting at 3? Did you get done what I have to do? Should I bring donuts? Should I bring coffee? Simple stuff. Don't have conversations on text. First of all, it's 2 people communicating. If there's 5 to 7 people in a group and only 2 are communicating, what happens to these 5? They got left out. They got cut out. They now have animosity to these 2 people. 5 against 2, not good, right? So be careful that. It's harder to share a text link than it is an email link. If you're sending emails, send it to the whole group. Unless it's a personal thing, as a secret, keep it a secret. So be careful about that too. I shouldn't have to say this, but I have to say it. If you're not participating, you fail. Period. End of story. I don't feel bad for you. I will give you an F. People love Fs, I guess, because they don't participate. You've taken it out of my hands. I have no choice. Okay. I would love to have all my students get C's and above, preferably B's and above, but C's and above. But if somebody doesn't do something, it's a 0. You just can't do it. And teachers that give 10 points just out of 100 just because the student needed it's wrong. I'm sorry. It's very wrong. It's a 0. It's accountability. If they're sick, you give them an incomplete. You find another way to make it up. But it's when you don't participate, it's nothing. If you don't show up for dinner, you go hungry. Plain and simple. All right, let's see what you can do here to make a difference. Here's 11 things. I'm not going to go too long into these. I'm going to try to go through these fairly quickly. You got to communicate early and often and update people with what's going on. Do I have to go deeper in that? I can. Basically, let me repeat that again. Communicate early and often of what is going on and what's some updates. Say, hey, I'm working on this. It's looking good. I'm going to have something by tomorrow at noon. Bam. Don't promise it. Guarantee it. Remember, promises can be broken. Guarantees cannot. Well, they can, but they're not supposed to be. All right. So I always upgrade promise, guarantee. Guarantees are higher. Ask questions if you don't understand what the project is. Don't remain silent. If you have a question in your head, don't say, I have a stupid question. It's not actually a stupid question because if you thought of it, I guarantee you somebody else, if not everybody, thought of that too. All right. You got to ask the questions. If there's something that you're just not getting, you didn't hear it right and you're embarrassed, just write it down and ask somebody in your group. What do they mean by it's due by next Saturday? Do they mean next Saturday or the one after? That would be a stupid question. You weren't listening. But again, ask the questions. Work hard and smart on your proportion. Hey, how's it going? Oh, Master Walters. No, that's the Master. Where is it? That's the old Master Walters. I'm just a Mr. Walters. Now I'm downgraded. Thanks. So if I said everybody has to call me Master Walters, I'd probably get in trouble with diversity for that. Probably sure works for me. Thank you. So work hard and smart on your portion of your project. You just have to do that. If I go, well, I got to have, 100 words and I kind of only came up with 20. Do 100. Okay. 100 is not that long. It's like what, 9-10 lines of text, maybe. And that's typed out text, double space, maybe 12 point. When I say work hard, also that means work smart. Okay. They're kind of synonymous, but people that work hard aren't necessarily working smart. People that go into bodybuilding and training, a lot of times they start really, really hard and they get hurt. I did the same thing when I started bodybuilding eons ago. I got hurt because I tried to do too much too quick. I wasn't smart about it. Then while I was healing, I studied a lot of techniques and a lot of new ways to protect my joints, my shoulders, my elbows, my wrists, fingers, hips, back, everything. All right. You learn how to do things the same way with doing this, with the project work. You have to do that. Number 4 is you have to engage everyone in the group to see how they're doing, i.e., ask questions, listen, or just shut the mouth and listen. What are they saying? What are their questions? You may have all the answers. Instead of you just blurting them out and saying, okay, everybody, listen up. I'm going to go on for 30 minutes and that's it. I'm going to shut up. No, you're not actually. You're going to shut your mouth and listen. That's up in your head. You have to do that. I got to tell myself, bite your lip, bite your tongue. Don't say a word. Just listen, take notes. It's okay. You can come back later because you know what? They might answer their own question. So again, do that. Now, when I say engage everybody, that doesn't mean just go, Look at them in the eyes. Say, I absolutely understand what you're saying. And I love it. It's great. Oh, your collaboration is so good. I really appreciate your input. Oh, thanks for putting that in there. I didn't even think of that. Make them feel good. There's introverts out there, very quiet people that when they get engaged in a group, it brings out this power in them. And if you're one of those people that does that and you notice that, it's going to bring you up a couple notches in your beliefs, values, and attitudes department. All right. Your stock value goes up. It's a really, really good feeling. Number 5 is try different roles to be well-rounded. What I mean by different roles is if you need to be the leader of the group, be the leader of the group. If you need to be the follower, be the follower. If you need to be the go-getter, be the go-getter. Do that role and do it to the best of your ability. Lead yourself to success. All right. That's what it's about. It's leading yourself to success. You've got to go and do that. Oh, congratulations on getting your master's. That is so awesome. Wow. Isn't that a good feeling? See, I'm engaging people in the group. I'm remembering to look over here. Still learning how to use the software. Oh, that is so awesome. That took a while. Oh, usually what, 10 years? That's what it took me to get mine, 10 years. That's amazing. Avoid criticizing others, but hold them accountable for the project portion that they said they were going to do or they were appointed to do. If you don't hold people accountable, they're going to keep slipping. They're going to keep sliding. They're going to keep skipping out on the stuff. Even though you may never see them ever again in your life, you actually are going to slide on that because now you're letting people go. Speaking of masters, when you're a master instructor in Taekwondo and you let a low rank get by with a sloppy habit, that sloppy habit comes back to haunt us. All right. If I don't fix that one tiny little tweak, I was the thumb guy. I was known as the thumb guy. Students have this is where it's supposed to be in this. I caught this, or they had their thumbs here. This thing goes back to your arm. It's usually not a good thing. It just doesn't work. It gets broken and it's expensive and it's painful. So I was the thumb guy. I would say, hey, thumb, thumb, thumb. I probably said, I'll bet 10,000 times a year easily in the classes that I used to teach. Again, the little details. It wasn't criticizing. I was protecting them. But sometimes it comes out in a way. Now, in a group, you need to be respectful about that. Hey, I hear what you're saying, but you did promise you're going to do this. You going to get it done? There's no criticism in that. Now, criticizing would be, you know what? That work really sucks. You did not do what you're supposed to do. You stink. You're blah, blah, blah. And, swear at them and all that stuff, which I'm not going to do here. But avoid criticizing others. Just hold them accountable for their job. Show up and beat deadlines is number 7. This is a big one. If the deadline is, let's see, what's today? Today is when I'm recording this. This is, I don't even know today. Oh, Sunday night. I should have known that. If it's due by tomorrow at 11:59 a.m. for my students, if you're on watching, that's the deadline, right? Because class starts at noon. We just got to start at 11 o'clock. I'm sorry. It starts at 11 o'clock tomorrow. That's the deadline. You got to put up and shut up. I mean, it's just time to go. When it's done, it's done. Number 8, don't pick up someone else's slack unless you don't have a choice. I've been put in that situation many a times, and sometimes you're prepared for it, sometimes you're not. Procrastinators are going to push you into the corner of their procrastination. They're going to drag you down, drag you into their mucky murk and pull you into this stuff. If you know or suspect that somebody is hurting, and what I mean by that nicely is they're just not doing their job, and you kind of get that feeling, be prepared. Say, hey, maybe we should meet like the day before the project's due just for everybody to show up what they have. And if somebody goes, you know what, I got it, stop them right there. Go, whoa, whoa, whoa. Do you have something or not? No, I don't. All right. Give me what you got. I don't have anything. Just fine. Back off. And go do the work. Get with the group and say, hey, this person did what they were doing to do. We need to pick up the slack. Anybody else in? No? Great. I got it. I'm going to do it. You got to be prepared for that. We had a major presentation ready. I tell this to my students a lot. We had somebody say, I'm going to do the presentation. I'm, graphic arts person. I'll get it all done. Great, great, great. 6 weeks later, we go up. Hey, let's meet, an hour beforehand. Oh, well, I'll be a little late, because I got to blah, blah, whatever. She was lying, procrastinator, lazy, whatever. Where's your presentation? Well, here it is. It's really amazing. We plugged in the USB and I was like, move everybody out of the way. Keep people away from me. Give me a cup of coffee. And I redid the entire presentation in 15 minutes. And I was unbelievable. It was the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. And after that, it was, how do we get away from this person? That was the nice way to do it. We didn't criticize her. We just stayed away. Number 9, be mindful of your group's time together. Stay on topic and help others do the same. If you only have 1 hour to meet, that means you got to stay on topic, you got to be specific, and you got to get the work done within the hour. If it's online, things can kind of drag on. I would say schedule times, use Google Calendar to send out to everybody about, hey, we're going to be meeting 10 minutes. We're going to be meeting 30 minutes. We're going to do, live talks at noon to 2. Everybody, please be on at noon promptly because maybe we get done in an hour. You get on Google Docs, you can have 5 people working on Google Docs at the same time. We did a 25 paper in a matter of a few days doing that. It was absolutely insane because everybody had different colors and everybody's typing and the thing's jumping. We're all laughing. And I think we're using Google Connect or something. So it's everybody like laughing and smiling. But boy, was it amazing. It was super, super people to work with. That was a good experience. I just remember that. I forgot about that. It was a good experience. You remember the bad, but you forget the good. So do that. Number 10, come in with a good attitude. If you come in with a bad attitude, it's on you, right? You got to come in with a good attitude. Leave your troubles at the door. I preach this so much to my students. If you're having a bad day, and they happen, life happens, things happen, leave it at the door. It will be there when you leave the room. All right, come into the room, be happy, be thoughtful, be mindful, do your work, go pick up your garbage, your baggage on the way out, and then go about the rest of the day and see what you can do to make it better. All right, just do that. Now, 11, don't argue with me. Yeah, don't argue. It's a big thing. And don't accuse others, especially of wasting time. Say, you know what? You did blah, 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 blah. Just don't do that. Say, excuse me, what do you got? Let me see it. All right. Can you do better? What can you do in an hour? If not, let me do it. Just walk away. You can do that. Now, there's some situations where you can't do that. You can always approach a teacher. And if you're one of my students listening, don't approach me and ask if you could change groups. I'll already know that you're going to probably ask that. I'm pretty intuitive of what I want. But when you get up and do the higher levels, junior, senior, master's, PhD work, you will not change groups, period, because that group might be for a year. When you're at work, you probably won't change groups. It'd be like you changing jobs or departments. Get your resume ready and good luck getting another job, because that's what you're going to have to probably do. If something doesn't go your way, deal with it. Accept it. Things happen. It happens. All right. Speaking of time, we should probably cut this off. I could go on for eons about this. Let me get into some of the special stuff. I do not have these linked in yet, but these will be linked soon. These are activities I do online. One is called the Lifeboat Dilemma. Some of you may have heard this. Some people, they have different interpretations of this. This one, I can't show it to you. I don't have it on the computer, but it's here. So I'm just going to go over this real quick. Basically, this scenario is this. You divide the room up into usually 3 groups or 4, depending on how many people are there. And you set up the scenario and say, you have 5 minutes as an individual to go through this list. And there's 15 names on this list. As an individual, you have to determine which 6 of these people are going to perish in super freezing cold water. There's no choice. The boat is sinking. If you don't eliminate 6, everybody dies. Pretty scary, sad thought, right? You do that 5 minutes alone. Then you get together with a group and the groups just, boom, they light up. Some groups are very quiet because some people don't like the idea of offing people, but you can turn it around and the goal or the expectation is what 9 out of the 15 can we save? A little bit different approach. And I've had all kinds of different ways to do this. There's some very funny ones. I'm going to put this on there. This is... it's a little racy. I will tell you that now. This was written back in, actually, I don't know when it was written. I remember doing something like this way back in 8th grade. So we'll say last century. Things were a bit different back then. So you got to take this tongue in cheek and just change it to how you want if you're going to present this. You do this at school, at work, or at parties. I mean, have some fun with your friends, break into groups of 4 or 5, change the dynamics of this a little bit. But it can be really fun. But you got to set the timer. 5 minutes alone, then 10 minutes as a group, and that's it. And then you have everybody go through it. And what it does, it teaches people about deadlines of groups, of how to work together, of how to deal with arguing. Because within here, people will give excess information and they really, really go crazy about how to do this. I've had 4 groups of 7 in a class, and just to stand in the middle is absolutely hysterical for me of listening to the reasoning of why people want to do things. It is a fun one. After I explained to them that the goal of that was not actually to see who saved it, but how you work together as a group, I hit them right away with the Doomsday Shelter. And this is a asteroid that just came into Earth's atmosphere is surely going to hit the Earth and destroy anything above ground for the next 5 years. And whoever's not in this doomsday survival shelter that the group made is they get some dilemmas to figure out, and they get a piece of paper with very minimal information of the people. And the criteria for this one is pretty tough because I talk for about a minute and a half and say, all right, you only have 8.5 minutes left because that thing's hitting the ground and that's it. The door's automatically shutting. This one is really fun to do because of the stress level, and they're not given enough information on the note. It's very short. You can see there's just this very short listing. So it'll be a famous novelist, a biochemist, a 65-year-old priest, so on and so on. Again, you can change these. These are fairly generic. But people argue about, well, is a couple one person or two? Is a pregnant person one or two? There's those beliefs, attitudes, and values and all that fun stuff. And then you get into the fact of, oh, and by the way, you have to have the right mix of people in your group to restart the human race again. That one usually throws them. That's a monkey wrench in the system. That one is a mind bender for a lot of people. And they usually forget that because they're so tuned into, oh my God, who am I going to save? Who's not going to live? Who's going to die? And it's pretty amazing. And I've had people say, well, I'm just going to step out and end it because I don't want to go through that. And I'll give up my seat, which is commendable if you want to do that. Then I have one, a green light thinking exercise. This one's really good for academics. This one is about how many ideas can you come up with in the shortest period of time. Then after that, it's you break into which roles people are going to play. So it's the actual decision-making of the formal or informal roles that everybody's going to have within that group. So that's going to really help out too. Oh, I see we have private dating. No private dating here. Sorry. We don't do that here. So that's it for group. Not really, but there's a lot to group stuff. All I can say is this: go in with a good attitude. Forget the past. The past is the past is the past. It's over. It's done. It's totally different dynamic now. You might have been 12 years old. You might have been 17. You might have been 18. You might have been in your 30s, 40s, 50s, depending who's watching. Everything changes. Again, depending on who the group is and who's in there. All right. If you found this conversation useful, and I hopefully you did, give it a thumbs up. See if you can subscribe to if you haven't done that already, except for the private dating check girls. We're going to have to delete them out. And share this with a friend who is having trouble with groups. It really can help out a lot of people. Make sure you also watch that video on your screen because that's the one YouTube thinks you'll get the most out of next. Until I see you, have a great day. I'll see you online soon.